I'm announcing the release of my very first book, Wins, Losses, and Lessons, what sports taught me about life. It's about life. It's about sports and the lessons you can learn through sports about life. Available now on Amazon. Link is in the bio. If you would like a signed copy, just hit me up on whatever social platform you see this on. Peace. If you're trying to figure out what matters in the new year, listen. The Jamaal Bethea Show. 7 minutes, one idea. So if you know me, I consider myself a peer-to-peer communicator, which means it doesn't matter how old the person that I'm talking to is. I can literally find value, virtue in that conversation. I can talk to a 5-year-old and have a real conversation. I can talk to a 15-year-old and have a real conversation. I can talk to a 55-year-old and have a real conversation. That's one of my strengths. I can communicate with any level of person, really. And one of my other strengths is what I call being a first principle thinker. What that really means is just figuring out, okay, in all of this convolutedness, what's underneath all of this? You know, I was texting with somebody one day and they were just saying all these things. And I was like, what's the goal of this? Like, what exactly are you getting at? Shoot me straight. Men like straight communication. I want this. Say that. You know what I mean? And a lot of time in life, when it comes to certain things you go through, you kind of need somebody who's been through something similar or been through that exact thing that can relate to you, because everybody can't honestly relate to you and what you've been through. But somebody can relate to what you've actually been through. But I tend to relate to people. There are topics and there are times and there are conversations where I'm like, yeah, you need to talk to so and such because I don't really got the answer for that. But more times than not, I relate to people through first principle thinking. So like, if a woman lost a baby, maybe she used to sell her body. I can't relate to that, but I can relate to shame. I can relate to anger. I can relate to lack of hope. And I can talk you through based on that. You know what I'm saying? You still may need to talk to somebody who's been in that line of work, a woman who can understand what you're going through, especially, physically. But I can talk to you based on the first principle idea of it all. What exactly is the thing you're feeling underneath that? And I think that's what people need to do more of so they gain more clarity. This is all about clarity, right? Clarity is when what you think and the truth line up, right? Okay, so being a first principle thinker, a lot of the time when I talk to people, they're angry. Okay, you're angry, but why are you angry? Because they disrespected me. Are you angry because they disrespected you? Or are you too afraid to say that they hurt your feelings? Because you're afraid you'll look weak or like a punk. Is that what you're afraid of, really? If I tell them, hey, you hurt my feelings, they gonna laugh. What the fuck you feeling? Get out of here, man. Fuck your feelings. Is that what you're afraid of? But I talk to people all the time. Anger is a response to protect a fragile emotion. That's it. That's it. So at the end of the day, when somebody does something you felt hurt, disrespect hurt your feelings. I remember telling one of my homeboys, I'm like, I'm going to try this. I'm really going to try this. I said, bro, that hurt my feelings when you did that. He was just like, why? Because men are told not to really deal with emotions. So half the time we can't address them because we can't even identify them. Right? Anger at the end of the day is an emotion. It is. It's an emotion. It's a reactionary emotion. You're trying to cover up something you don't want somebody to see. So that's how I think. First principle. Let's boil it down to the bottom. So even when I talk cell phones, what's really the real difference between Android and iPhone? One is a little more customizable than the other. But if you even look at Android, what are they doing? They're starting to kind of structure their phone a lot more like Apple is. Apple's starting to customize a little bit like Android is. So everybody's really pushing towards the middle. So y'all over here fighting iPhone, Android, Galaxy, Samsung. I don't care. Okay? Have a phone. Does it work? Now I know how the older people feel. First of all, does it make a call? I'm like, you can make a call on a rotary phone. Why buy a cell phone if all you want to do is make a goddamn call? But I get the idea because y'all making all of this hoopla about this and that and the other. The first principle level of it is, and a friend of mine named Chauncey said this years ago, we were just talking. He was like, honestly, bro, they all do the same thing. I'm like, right. Cell phones all do the same thing. That's the first principle layer. You understand what I'm saying? So when you think first principle, what's the root cause? What's the root truth? What's really going on here? Everything else is just built on top of it. You think about the NBA. He got a bag. He can score. He can dance with the ball. He gonna dribble. Behind the back. What happens if he misses the shot anyway? Do we give a shit that he could dribble? So when they say things like LeBron don't have a bag, I'm like, first of all, LeBron got a bag. It's just not an extensive bag. Kobe had much more of a bag. Who's averaging more points for career? First principles. Watching one of my movies, Glory Road. And he was like, they were talking to Adolph Rupp, the guy, John Voight, love John Voight, who played Adolph Rupp. And they were like, you have to admit, the Negro player is changing basketball. And he said, really? I thought basketball was about putting the ball in the hoop. And you can quote me on this. That's not going to change. Completely sarcastic, completely being an a-hole. The point he was making is on a first principle level, it's just about putting the ball in the hoop. And that's what I say to people. Okay, Kobe had a bag, LeBron doesn't. Who has all of the scoring records? So then clearly, on a first principle level, you're disrespecting how good LeBron is because it's not as flashy as Kobe. That's not a LeBron or a Kobe problem. That's a fan problem. That's you. If you respect how somebody scores, and I'm not saying we don't all like, crossover and a spin move and a dunk. Oh, that's nice. Okay. You know what I mean? A Euro step and a layup and the defender gets lost. It's like, oh, did you see that? Yo, that was sick. I'm not saying I don't get that. But on a first principle level, does it make that much a difference? Somebody asked me the other day, Shaquille O'Neal or Nikola Jokic? I was like, Shaq. They were like, you're crazy. I said, why? Because Jokic can do this. He could do this. He could do that. But he's a liability on defense. Shaq was averaging 2 steals and 3 blocks at one point while doing the same thing that you knew he was going to do and couldn't stop him. And 15 boards. 37 points to 16 boards in the finals. You can have the passing and the shooting. I'll take that and build around it, right? First principles. I want to know what's underneath of all of this. Everything else is just coloring and filling. That's just how I feel about it. I'm a first principle thinker. Mr. First Principle Thinker. I'll see you in the next episode.